The prince was confused. His eyes darted around the chamber, his chest rising and falling too fast. He looked at me, then at Nifemi, then at his own grown body. I was a child, he whispered. His voice was deep, but the words trembled like a boy's. Why am I like this? There was no time to explain. Not now. I stepped forward, grabbed his arm, and spoke quickly. This place is no longer safe. Your uncle Shola has taken over the palace. He thinks you're dead. If he finds out you're alive, he will kill you. The prince blinked at me like he couldn't understand. His lips parted as if he wanted to ask more questions, but before he could, Sade stepped between us. Her face was sharp, her voice firm. Duru speaks truth. We must leave. Now. Nifemi, still trembling from shock, helped steady the prince as we moved. For someone who had slept most of his life, his legs were weak. But his spirit was strong. He followed. We left the hidden chamber through the back passage, the one carved long ago for escape in times of war. The tunnel was dark, and our torches flickered as we walked quickly through. When we emerged into the night air, a small carriage was waiting. The horses pawed the ground impatiently. Get in. I hissed. The prince, Sade, and Nifemi climbed inside, while I took the reins. Just as the wheels began to roll, I heard the pounding of hooves behind us. Palace guards. They had discovered us. Stop in the name of the new king, one shouted. But I did not stop. I whipped the horses, and the carriage jerked forward violently. The wheels spun over the dirt road, throwing dust into the night sky. The sound of pursuit grew louder. I looked back, half a dozen riders, their spears raised, closing in fast. Hold on! I shouted. The chase tore through the dark forest. Branches cracked. Owls scattered. The horses screamed. Twice, a spear landed near the carriage, digging into the earth. Once, a guard pulled close enough to grab the back rail. Nifemi kicked his hand until he fell away. Sade, calm even in chaos, whispered words I didn't understand and threw a pouch of powder into the air. A sudden gust of wind rose from nowhere, blinding the riders with dust and leaves. That was our chance. The carriage jolted forward, faster and faster, until the shouts behind us faded. At last, we crossed the river boundary beyond the reach of Shola's men. The horses slowed, exhausted. Ahead, hidden in a grove of tall palm trees, was a safe house built of mud and thatch. One of the king's old allies had prepared it for emergencies like this. Few knew it existed. We pulled in, hearts racing. The night was silent again, except for our heavy breathing. For the first time since his awakening, the prince spoke, his voice low but certain. Tell me, everything. The safe house was quiet. The fire in the clay pot burned low, and the sound of crickets filled the night. The prince sat on the mat, his eyes still restless, trying to make sense of everything. Finally, he looked at me. Where are my parents? I froze. For the first time since we escaped, I couldn't speak. He asked again, louder this time. Where are my parents? Answer me. I swallowed hard. My chest felt heavy, but I couldn't hide it anymore. They were captured, I said, my voice low. Your uncle has them. I was sent to save you because they feared he would discover you're alive. As it stands, you are our only hope. The words cut him deeper than any blade. His face fell, and he stepped outside into the night air. I followed but kept my distance. He stood under the palm trees, his shoulders shaking, his hands covering his face. Then he broke down completely. His sobs echoed into the dark. He wept for his parents. He wept for the years lost. He wept because he had closed his eyes as a child and opened them as a man. Nothing made sense anymore. As he knelt in the dirt, Nifemi walked up behind him. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Go away, the prince said, his voice cracked. Please. I don't want you to see me like this. But Nifemi didn't move. She crouched beside him and spoke softly. I may not understand your pain, but I can comfort you. I want to make you feel better." He looked at her, his eyes red with tears. And then he pulled her close. He hugged her tightly, his face buried against her shoulder. For the first time since waking up, he allowed himself to release everything. And she stayed there, holding him until his sobs faded into silence. When he finally calmed, Nifemi whispered the words that lit a fire in him. "You need to take your father's kingdom back. You need to save them. But you cannot do it alone. We need to work together." The prince looked into her eyes. For the first time, his tears stopped, replaced with something stronger. Determination. He nodded. "Yes," he said. "We will." At dawn the next day, we all gathered inside the safe house. The air smelled of palm wine and wood smoke. A single clay lamp lit the room as we sat on mats in a circle. Abayomi, still trying to find his place in this new world. Sade, calm and watchful. Nifemi, quiet but full of fire. And me, carrying the burden of truth. I was the first to speak. "The only way we can get the kingdom back is by fighting for it," I said. My voice was steady, though my chest was heavy with the weight of what was ahead. When Shola took over, some of the king's loyal soldiers fled. They're hiding now, waiting for word from me. They have not given up. But we must move quickly. Your uncle's coronation is in 1 month. If he is crowned, the kingdom will believe he has the god's blessing. We must strike that very day. The prince looked down at his hands, then raised his head with a new determination. "Then I must prepare myself," he said. "I cannot face him like this. I need to train. I need to be ready for battle before the day we take back what belongs to my father." No one argued. We all agreed. That very morning, we began. The weeks that followed were hard. The safe house became a training ground. By day, I drilled Abayomi in combat. We trained with wooden staffs first, then blades. His arms trembled the first few times he lifted the sword, his strikes clumsy, his grip weak. But every sunrise, he grew stronger. By night, I taught him the art of strategy, how to read an enemy's movement, how to strike not with anger but with precision. Sade taught him chants of focus, ancient words to sharpen the mind. Nifemi treated his blisters with healing salves, whispering encouragement when his body wanted to collapse. The boy who once slept for 20 years was now a man who barely slept at all. And with each passing day, I could see it. The prince was becoming a warrior. The training grew harder with each passing day, and the prince's body became stronger, sharper, and quicker. But my words to him were always the same. Never go anywhere without your sword. A king must always protect himself. He nodded each time, his grip tightening around the hilt. But while I drilled him in combat, something else was happening, something I hadn't expected. Nifemi and the prince began to grow closer. At first, it was small things. They spent late nights talking under the palm trees, voices low as the crickets sang around them. She told him stories of her childhood, of being ignored by her people, of finding comfort in the company of herbs and roots. He told her of his confusion, of closing his eyes as a child and waking up as a man. She listened like no one else ever had. During the day, they often walked to the stream together. Sometimes they swam, the prince splashing clumsily like a boy, while Nifemi laughed in a way I hadn't heard before, light, unguarded, full of life. Other times, she would teach him how to prepare herbs, their hands brushing by accident as they ground leaves in a calabash bowl. The bond between them grew and didn't expect it to grow this fast. But the prince didn't understand what he was feeling. He had been asleep for most of his life. What did he know of love? Then, one fateful day, everything changed. They were by the stream, sitting on a flat rock as the water rippled softly. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. The prince was talking, his words unsure, his eyes fixed on the water. Suddenly, Nifemi leaned forward and pressed her lips lightly against his cheek. A soft, quick peck. The prince froze, his eyes wide. Why did you do that?" he asked, his voice trembling. She smiled gently. Because I really like you. And that was the beginning of something new. Something neither of them had planned for. The beginning of a beautiful journey. The day came faster than we expected. The prince was no longer the boy who once slept helplessly. He was now a man, sharpened by fire, ready to face what awaited him. That morning, I took him to meet the loyal soldiers who had fled when Shola stole the throne. They bowed, some in disbelief, some in tears, but none of them knew who he really was. For his safety, we kept it that way. To them, he was just another guard sent to lead the charge. By evening, the coronation began. The drums shook the ground, the crowd roared, and Shola walked proudly into the palace, adorned in royal beads and flowing agbada, the weight of the stolen crown on his head. The rites went smoothly until the last one, the pouring of libation. That was when we stormed in. My voice echoed through the great hall. This coronation cannot hold. The crowd gasped. The drummers stopped. Shola's face tightened as he stepped forward. Why? He said coldly. I defeated your king. I was always meant to be king. This throne is mine. From among the soldiers, a voice rang out. Strong. Steady. Familiar. Who said it is yours? The prince stepped forward, dressed like a palace guard. The crowd whispered, confused. Shola laughed, his voice shaking with arrogance. An ordinary guard dares to confront me. This is an insult to the throne. Abayomi's eyes burned with fury. His voice cut through the silence. I am not a palace guard. My name is Prince Abayomi Kendrick Fashla. The hall froze. Gasps spread like fire. Shola's face turned pale, the color draining from him. His lips trembled. How are you alive? He stammered. The prince stepped closer, his rage spilling over. Are you shocked that your plan failed? The poisoned snack that put me to sleep for years you gave me. You said it was your gift, so we could play the next day. Shola's eyes darted, searching for lies to cover him. That's a lie. I stepped forward. My voice thundered across the room. No. I saw you. I saw you drop it in the tray that day. The crowd turned on him. Shola's mask cracked. His pride collapsed into desperation. Yes, he shouted, his voice raw. I would do anything for the throne. You are lucky you did not die. But if you want your father's kingdom, you must fight for it. With that, he drew his sword. The prince drew his too. The clash rang through the palace, sparks flying as steel met steel. The crowd watched in silence, their breaths held. At first, Shola swung with arrogance, but Abayomi had trained for this moment. Every strike I had drilled into him, every wound Nefemi had healed, every chant Sade had whispered, it all showed in his movements. When Shola realized he could not win, he dropped his blade and ran. But he did not get far. The soldiers seized him, dragged him back, and threw him into the palace dungeon. At last, the nightmare was over. We freed the king and queen from their chains. Tears flowed freely as they embraced their son, no longer the child they remembered, but the man who saved their legacy. The kingdom roared with joy. The king promoted me to be his advisor, a duty I swore to serve with my life. Sade, her task complete, said she had to return to her people. The gods call me elsewhere, she whispered before leaving. And then there was Nefemi. At first, many whispered she was unfit for royalty, she was not of noble blood. But when the truth of her bravery spread, when they learned it was her love that woke the sleeping prince, the kingdom bowed their heads and accepted her. She was no longer just the girl with herbs. She was the heartbeat of the new king. And King Adola learned one lesson he never forgot sometimes. The greatest enemies do not come from outside the walls. They come from your own household. Don't forget to like, comment, and for more jaw-dropping stories subscribe to Tales by Amy.